News with Gina.
The news with Gina Grad.
Sorry, Dan Dunn is hanging with us for the news, by the way. Sorry, Gina, go ahead.
Well, I think we need to raise our glasses to it for a toast to a very hard-fought battle with Lori Loughlin and Massimo Giannulli, but it's not ending well for them. Actress Lori Loughlin was sentenced Friday to 2 months in federal prison for her role in the college admissions scandal, according to CNN. Loughlin will serve 2 years of supervised release, during which she must perform 100 hours of community service and pay a fine of $150,000. But wait, there's more. Her husband received a 5-month stay in prison, $250,000 fine, 2 years of supervised release, and 250 hours of community service. Both must surrender to the U.S. Bureau of Prisons before 2 p.m. on November 19th. The sentence brings an end to the saga for them. And, probably the most famous, high-profile people caught up in this school scandal.
These stories are interesting to me because, I just have no goddamn interest at all in incarcerating people who I don't know what. Between her and Massimo, what do you think they put into the pot in terms of taxes? I've realized I should just go fucking kill myself because I'm such a bottom line guy. These guys have paid millions, tens of millions of dollars in taxes and given whatever and done whatever. How many jobs has that guy created? How
Between
many jobs?
The Target line and 42 Lifetime movies.
Yes. Okay. Leave them the fuck alone. They didn't hurt anybody. I swear to God, it drives me insane. I look at all these fucking people that are just shitting out kids and using the system and in and out of jail and the parole officers and whatever. It's they cost us millions of dollars. On the other side of the ledger, these guys are earners. At some point, we have to take society. We have to just draw a line and make a ledger. Are you earning? Are you a part of society? Are we glad we have you in society? Or are you a fuck up and are you, a welfare cheat and are you a deadbeat dad and whatever it is? And if that's the issue, then that's the issue. I don't know how to work it, but I have no interest in these people being incarcerated at all.
Well, and sort of to your point, we talk about, AT&T, they got their slap on the wrist. They got fined $2 million. But where's that money go? It doesn't go to the, it doesn't go to the people. It just gets gobbled up into the ether. So wouldn't it make more sense if you're truly offended by what they did to, let's say, USC, because I think both the kids were at USC, that $250,000, that $150,000, that goes to a scholarship program for USC. That doesn't just get gobbled up by the government.
Well, also, you go, well, then, who's the victim? And you go, well, the victim could be a person that didn't get into USC because these kids took their spot. But colleges do that shit all the time. They go we got too many Asians. We need more people from another group. So back off on them and bring these people in with a lower SAT score. I mean, they do that shit all the time. So
that's UCLA.
There are people that are penalized. Anyway, what
no one talks about is what about the crew team? They're down two.
That's right. They're down two ringers.
Two ringers now. They got two rowers gone.
Right.
Tragic.
Coxswain.
Either way, I don't know. Just pay taxes and stay out and work. Yes, Brian.
Has this come up with Mark Garagos? Has he weighed in on it with his expertise? Because I was under the impression, I don't know, that they were using these as tax write-offs or something. There were tax cheats, is what I thought I heard.
I still go back to my original thing, which is I just left my mom's house. She's paid no taxes her entire fucking life, and no one has a problem with her. These guys have paid hundreds, tens of millions of dollars in taxes, and somehow in my world, when but they fucked up and they didn't pay $500K and this whatever. What have they paid their entire life? What has other people we know paid their entire life? I don't draw a distinction between the two. My feeling is I'm at a point with taxes where I should never have to fucking pay taxes again in my life because I've got way past the level of paying taxes. When we're talking about when they do that, you got to pay your fair share. Oh, good. I've paid more than 75 school teachers pay in 1,000 years. Am I good? Or should I pay my fair share? I don't like this shit. My thing is get to a certain threshold and then go. I don't even care if they cheated on their taxes. It doesn't matter to me. They paid enough. They paid their debt to society. Let them go. We got to free her and him. That's
Yeah,
it.
you got to make free Lori and Massimo.
That's
t-shirts,
right.
Like
It's going to make you an activist.
Ugh.
take to the streets. So I hope you don't see this next story the same way, because I would say this is the other side of the prison spectrum. The Golden State Killer is going away for good.
He's a hero. He should never see the inside of a prison cell.
74-year-old Joseph D'Angelo was sentenced Friday in Sacramento, California, to life in prison without parole for 13 murders and 13 kidnappings. D'Angelo, who was a former cop, terrorized Californians in the 70s and 80s, was not arrested until this year. He admitted to the killings in June. And I know this, we always kind of touch on this, but we don't have any specifics, so I gathered a little for you. We always talk about how DNA helped catch him. Do you want a quick blurb on that?
I do.
When it comes to
I
DNA?
want this guy killed, though. I don't want him in prison.
You know what, though? I thought about that. And since in California we never do that, isn't it a worse sentence to not get death row? Because death row, you're in segregated, you may get some perks, you're left alone a lot. But so in that way, and you're never going to get executed. So isn't it better to not get a death sentence in California?
Gina's drunk.
I don't know. Yeah. Either
But
way.
before we go there, more importantly, how much taxes has this guy paid?
That's
Probably
right.
very little.
Because I don't know. If
I think he's living off the grid.
Yeah. All right. I'm just saying.
Well,
So
yeah, my thing with like death rows, like people go, well, what about the young black teenage boy who was falsely accused of whatever, and then we take an innocent life? I'm like, fine, don't put that guy on death row. But if we got 13 kidnappings and 13 bodies and your name's attached to it, then we get to kill you.
Yeah, there should be a threshold.
Yeah,
we
that's
never-
my thing.
But it's California.
Right.
We never do it anyway.
Right.
So here's how we got here, which is really interesting. So by the 2000s, the advent of the DNA helped link crimes to one person. Much of the DNA collected had already been used up in testing for this effort. But a second untested rape kit taken from Charlene Smith, who was 33, one of D'Angelo's Ventura victims, would lead to his arrest in April 2018. Semen collected from her body was used to track down his family tree and point to him as the suspect. To finally identify and arrest him in 2018, investigators pioneered a new method of DNA tracing that involves building a family tree from publicly accessible genealogy.
Yeah, this was like the
websites.
23andMe bust,
Yes,
right?
Right.
Yeah,
to
that's
narrow down the list of suspects. They linked nearly 40-year-old DNA from a crime scene to a distant relative, and eventually to a discarded tissue they sneaked from D'Angelo's garbage in Sacramento.
Did a family member bust him?
Well, I don't remember if she knew. It was like a distant cousin, and her DNA was up on this site. So I don't know.
I thought
if
it was something with the family.
Yeah, I don't know if she willingly said, "Here, take mine," but that is how they found
The
him.
Unabomber had the same thing, right? The Unabomber had a family member rat
it was
him
his
out.
brother that turned him
Yeah.
down.
Maybe this is the gin talking, but when I get home, I'm going to give my kids a stern talking to about, like, one of you has to kill the other.
Right.
Because I see how this plays out.
Yeah.
One of you is going to drop a dime on the other at some point in their career. And I say we settle it now in the living room. Let's not wait.
Cool.
Let's not wait. Yeah, okay, good. Let's kill him, though. This idea we have to pay for him to be incarcerated.
Yep.
He's going to outlive us all.
Because
and
I
that'll
think
be
that
awesome.
was part of the deal of it pleading guilty. And there was also like 50 rapes, but no one seemed as interested in that as the kidnappings and murders.
Yeah, and Adam, no family member was involved. They just had a process of elimination based off the DNA, and then they went and took some DNA from his trash and his car, and then that's how they finalized everything.
Science.
Was jerking off in his car?
Wasn't a lot of the documentary too? Patton Oswalt's.
That he was already incarcerated after it came out, but in terms of when it was being filmed, that's.
But her investigation, I think, helped the police tremendously, right?
100% Michelle McNamara, yes.
And her giving
book,
him
I'll
the
Be Gone in the
title,
Dark.
right? I mean,
she did call him the Golden State Killer because he had like 50 names up until that point. And the Golden State Killer, when you brand these guys, it renews the interest in their story and papers will start running about them again. So yeah, it was really interesting. And I'm a little tiny bit drunk. Earl Thomas, Pro Bowl safety Earl Thomas has officially been released by the Baltimore Ravens, according to ESPN. He was in a fight with teammate Chuck Clark at practice on Friday. Thomas was sent home, and now he's been cut by the Ravens for conduct detrimental to the team. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reported that the Ravens will also attempt to recoup their $10 million that Thomas was due to make this season. Ahead of the 2019 season, Thomas signed a 4-year deal, $55 million.
Wasn't he a Seahawk, Brian?
Yeah. He was a very good player. He still is pretty good, but he was part of the Legion of Boom.
Why do you get rid of a guy who's still good for fighting? I feel like football.
I was thinking the same thing. I haven't found a reason. My guess is that either he sucker punched the guy or he fucked him up like big time because, guys, we've seen Hard Knocks. Guys get into fights all the time.
All right.
I was going to say there's no room for violence in the NFL. So if he's going to do that kind of stuff.
That much you can say.
Did he fight him like in the parking lot or on the field? Or do we know?
The locker room.
I think it was during one of their practices, and I was looking for footage.
It was a film session.
Yeah, and he, you know what? Talk about the bigger man. He wrote an Instagram little caption about it, and he says, "Appreciate the Ravens organization for the opportunity. Had a great run. Wish things would have ended different, but you live and you learn. Thank you, Eric DaCosta, and everyone else who played a role in bringing me to be more. Wish you guys the best."
Did that say written by his agent? At the end? Yeah.
I wonder is he going to end up somewhere, do you guys think?
He has been making noise, like literally. I think there's footage of him. Sorry, I'm chewing an olive. There's footage of him like a couple years ago begging like the Cowboys to sign him. Yeah, so that's the leader in the clubhouse, but who fucking knows?
They're not playing football this year. I mean, they're going to play like 2 games. And then, right?
I don't know. I
mean, how is it? The numbers just would seem impossible that they're not going to get positive tests on every team once they start slamming into each other. And the most susceptible people, right, are the heavier set, the offensive linemen, the guys that are in the trenches. It's just, I love football, and it's depressing to think it's not going to happen, but it's hard to imagine them getting through a whole season of the NFL.
I talked to Drew about this, not football per se, but just the subject of COVID. And, we're always like, we sort of get obsessed with like a cure, a vaccine. We get obsessed with a vaccine and testing and stuff like that. But Drew said, we're getting really good at treating this. Like, think about, it's not a sexy news story, the treating of it. The sexy news story is like, how many people got it? How many people died? Where's the vaccine?
Race to the vaccine.
Does Russia have the vaccine? When is the vaccine? But he's like, it's a boring part of the story, but he's like, doctors get pretty good at treating things pretty fast. I think they were caught off guard. Obviously, they didn't know what this thing was. But he's like, there's a lot of stuff we do now, and we have a pretty good handle on it. And so it's this boring gray area of no vaccine, but you get it, and they know what to do with you when you show up. And it's a lot less dangerous than it was when everyone was just confused and trying experimental therapies and whatnot. So I kind of like that part where Drew was explaining that they know a lot and they have a lot of therapies now and they kind of know how to treat it. So hopefully we'll enter that era soon. Yeah.
My favorite part of watching this news segment, I don't know if people can see this on the Zoom, is every time if Gina's talking or someone else is talking, everybody else is stuffing olives down their throat.
Are these jalapeno olives?
At one point I looked over, Adam was eating olives, Brian was eating olives, Gina's eating cherries. Yeah.
I just had to try this whiskey cherry. This is intense.
Is this jalapeno? Is this olive jalapeno?
Yeah, did you get that? Yeah, jalapeno.
Garlic jalapeno.
It's double stuffed.
Yeah, Dirty Sue does the olives as well, and those jalapeno olives are amazing.
All right, Gina.
It tastes like heaven. Okay. Well, and on with your question about, excuse me,
wash it down,
the NFL. One
cherries.
Quick second. Brad Williams brought this up when he was on the other day, but just to give you a little more information, the Kansas City Chiefs are allowing reduced capacity at the stadium when the season begins. So they're going to allow Arrowhead to be 22% full, which is about 17,000 fans. It can normally hold 76,000 fans. Tickets will be sold in grouped pods of seats beginning any day now. The Chiefs said guidance from local and public officials will determine the capacity throughout the season. And while the Chiefs plan to allow tailgating, because Kansas City people love to tailgate. That's a non-starter to not tailgate. Fans will be limited to the area directly behind their vehicle and will only be allowed to interact with the fans they have in their ticketed pod. So, and of course, face coverings and all that jazz. So I think that seems pretty reasonable, and I can't imagine a lot of stadiums not going along.
Yeah, I went out to Jeffrey's in Malibu last night, and it's like the beach was packed, the restaurant was packed, everyone was sitting outside. Yeah, it was sweet.
They were playing My Bologna.
They're playing My Bologna. Like, it was really nice, and there was a ton of people in there, and I don't know, everyone takes their mask off as soon as they sit down, and it was crowded, but it was outside. Like, I think we can work this out with the stadium, especially like the Chiefs with the outdoor stadium. How long before the Chiefs are on the chopping block? Like the name, like Arrowhead and the Chiefs. I mean, they are. Yeah.
Not the Chief name, but all of the pomp and circumstance, shall we say, that goes along with going to a Chiefs game, which I have not been to in decades. The headdresses, the tomahawk chop, all that stuff is going to be banned at games. Face painting.
It's kind of weird because we go, look, the name's fine, the Chiefs, and the stadium's fine, Arrowhead, but no wearing of the headdress or no putting the makeup on. It's like, well, that's just a continuation of this thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why is this all of a sudden offensive? They're wearing it because the team is called the Chiefs, and they're dressing up like an Indian chief. But I don't know. To me, it all falls under the heading of homage. But yes, Brian.
So my question about the seating is nothing to do with COVID. Maybe you can ask Damashek about this. Certainly the Chiefs have more. What's the capacity they're going to?
70,000.
No, sorry. What are the? How much are they going to let in?
17.
They certainly have more than 17,000 season ticket holders. Like, how are they going to work it out that way? Where, like, I paid for my seat license or I paid for this season ticket. Like, the fuck am I going to come to a game? That kind of, I'm wondering how they're going to work that out. And not just them, but everyone.
Sorry, I'm eating an olive. What?
Because everybody's eating.
Philadelphia announced right away that they weren't going to have any fans. And we have season tickets, my family, so we just never paid for them this year.
Oh,
They didn't, but that was Philly said they're not going to have fans. What you're saying is, like, how do they decide who gets to do it versus maybe people can opt in? I bet a lot of people probably opt out. Right?
We the Carollas. My dad he doesn't have season tickets. He's a preseason ticket guy. He only has tickets to the preseason games. So we get two games.
Nearly as fun.
We get 2 preseason games a year. Hey, Max Bada, what percentage is the average of an average NFL stadium is season ticket holders versus general admission? You guys have guesses? It's got to vary, but there's probably an average, right?
Depends on the team. Sure, Lambeau has more.
With the Eagles, it's almost all.
Yeah, I was going to say a high percentage.
Everything is now StubHub, and it's, individual seats. They'll release, like, if they have, 1-offs or 2-offs here. But, like, most of the old legacy teams, Patriots, Eagles, all that, I'm sure the Chiefs are probably – I think it's all sold out. Like, it's all season tickets.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, maybe like Lambeau or the Green Bay Packers have more than the Jaguars, perhaps. But
the Chargers would be the opposite end. Like, there's going to be nobody has season tickets to the Chargers. But if you go like Patriots, Eagles, even the Redskins, there used to be back in the day there was like a 20-year wait to get season tickets to the Redskins.
Nobody has season tickets to the Redskins. They only have season tickets to the Washington football team.
I apologize. It's the Martinis.
It is weird when
the Washington football team.
When you watch the NFL Network and they go to the camp and it just has a W. Like, it doesn't. It has a maroon square with a gold W in the middle of it, and I'm watching it with the sound down while I'm on my rowing machine, and I think tonight I'm going to put my rowing machine in my swimming pool to really get a full simulation of where I'm at physically. Yeah, shallow end. I'm not a weirdo.
Put some PVC piping around and let it float like you're actually rowing.
What is going on with the Rams? Are they going to have fans? Because I'm wondering, like, they built this amazing palace that is no one going to see it? Or are they going to allow fans in there?
Well, and they have the most insane, like, ceiling video screen that the world has ever known. You know, like you think of Fremont Street in Vegas, and you go downtown and the whole street has this video screen. That's nothing compared to what they put into SoFi. So they're going to want to show that off as soon as possible.
Are they letting fans into SoFi? Or we don't know?
Not yet.
Well, it's interesting because LA's like the most locked down. I mean, California and LA have to be the most locked down in the country now, right? Like, is there
at this point?
New York's not beating us. Like, whatever cities or states, New Jersey, New York, whatever, the ones that were hit hard, I don't think anyone's doing more or less than us. On the other hand, everyone who lives here is sort of ignoring it now. Mm-hmm. But you can't ignore it and go into a stadium if they say the stadium is locked down. So I'll be curious. Max Pass, see if you can find something on what that'll be. Because again,
technically, the thing that was supposed to kick off the SoFi whole event system was a Taylor Swift concert. There's no way that's happening. So
really?
That was supposed to be the big grand opening.
There go my tickets.
Supposed to happen in July, right? Was
that in July? I thought it was August. You might be right.
Yeah, it was July, I think.
The Taylor Swift?
Yeah, it was
so
supposed
that came
to be
and
July.
went.
Is the stadium finished? You fly over it when you go into LAX, and it's kind of interesting because of the height requirements, because it's so close to the landing strip. They put it in the ground.
It's subterranean, right?
Yeah,
part of it is.
It seems
down. Yeah,
it seems about 4 or 5 stories stick up out of the ground, but it seems like 4 or 5 are in the ground as well. Very innovative and kind of interesting, but I don't know because who. Are you guys with me? I don't know what's going on with L.A. and California. I feel like I see people moving out in the street. I see restaurants moving out in the street. I see barbershops moving out in the street. I see people just going to the beach and playing volleyball and like playing basketball now. Like, it seems a little ungoverned. It seems like people are just kind of doing what they're doing. I don't know what the official word is. I don't know if it's like 2 more weeks of this or no new cases for 2 weeks or schools are going to open. I'm not hearing any official news. I just feel like everyone's just kind of on their own.
Isn't it cases per 100,000? That's what they're going by. Like, if it's this percentage of cases per 100,000 will open the schools.
Yeah, I don't know. But, people give me shit because I'm like, there is a big difference between somebody dying a patient that has dementia and hospice care and a young person dying. And everyone's like, well, what if that was your grandma? Thank you, Captain Pussy. Thank you, hero. I get it. You're talking to the wrong guy because, I'm not a huge fan of my grandma, but I get what you're saying. But it's a simple equation, and I would put anyone who's challenging me to this. Everyone who's had a kid has had the experience of bringing the kid home from the hospital. When you left the hospital, let's just say you had a wheel. On one side of the wheel, it said 18 years. On the other side of the wheel, it said 81 years. And you were going to spin that wheel with your newborn as you walked out to your car. Whatever one it landed on, that's the year that the child would die. If it landed on 81, you would fall to your fucking knees and cry and hug your wife. And if it landed on 18, you'd be very upset for the next 17 and a half years. So that's the difference between dying at 18 and 81. You understand, pussies? That's how I go through my life. I would be fine to die at 81. I'd be fine if my kids died at 81.
You'd be lucky to die at 81.
I'd be lucky to die at 81.
What I wouldn't give.
What I wouldn't give. I'm going to do everything possible to ensure that I die on my 81st. If my kids died at 18, I'd be devastated. If they died at 81, I'd be happy. So all the pussies that are on Twitter going, whoa, what about your grandma? I'm just talking about that. That's all. There's a huge difference. Draw the distinction and get on with your fucking lives. Rams had their first scrimmage at SoFi yesterday, so says Max Zapata. I hope it's chronicled in Hard Knocks.
I'm sure it will be.
Is there any discussion about when the first? I mean, someone is kicking off the first season. I mean, the first game of the season. It's either going to be the Bolts or it's going to be the Rams, right?
Yeah. Well, the first regular season game is expected to be held September 13th. Rams hosting the Cowboys.
But
really?
the Chargers must play the week before that, right? Because they have to keep alternating, right?
this must be a COVID thing because, as I recall, the defending Super Bowl champions always host the first game on a Thursday, but perhaps it's been pushed back because
you might not
of
be
COVID.
doing that because of because they can't do all the fanfare and stuff. But I believe the first week of the season is 3 weeks from today, right?
I think. Well, Thursday. The first game is Thursday.
12th, yeah.
The first game is Thursday night, and then the Rams are. So is that the first week? Is that the first week of the season?
Yeah, so the first regular season game.
So it's the Rams. All right. But you don't. Is there such a thing as buying tickets to that game? Or what's our plan?
I saw somewhere. Oh yeah, no fans in attendance, but you can do. I think they're going to do the cardboard cutouts.
Super
Let's do a
satisfying.
podcast from there.
That is satisfying. Well, at least there's cardboard. All right.
Well, if we want to stay on the things that people are trying to do to get back to some sort of normalcy. College tracking systems, that's becoming a thing. So Albion College in Michigan and Oklahoma State University are attempting to create these bubbles on campus with regular coronavirus testing and an app that tracks the location of the students. The idea is for students to stay within 5 miles of the campus, that's at Albion, for the entire semester. If a student leaves campus, the app notifies administration and the student could be temporarily suspended.
Great.
Now at Oklahoma State, at OSU, go Pokes, it's something similar to that. It's all done by Wi-Fi tracking and card swipes into buildings, and they can tell literally what room of which dorm you're in.
It all starts off good, and then at some point, the counselor's sitting down with the parents, and they're going, it looks like Timothy beat off 1,328 times in the fall
13
semester.
trips from his dorm room to the bathroom.
Let's see. He used the Lord's name in vain. Let me check that one out. That's 621 times in the first quarter. He ogled a woman. He looked at women. Oh, yeah, we know. And that's 1,347 times, turns out. He had impure thoughts about you as parents. Let me check the data on that. So we did a retinal scan for that one, and we found out some very, very, very disturbing, troubling news. Like it's all good now, but it's sort of like
once BYU gets a hold of it.
That's right.
Oh boy.
Well, it's kind of like what they do, that thing where they go like, hey, we're just going to add 0.75% of taxes until we can pay for the earthquake that we had or whatever. But but it never goes away. It never leaves. It just, they keep the system going, and we're going to be tracking these kids. And here comes Big Brother. All right, let's do one more, Gina Grad.
All right, let's see here. What shall we do? Okay, well, since we mentioned Taylor Swift, she's actually she's a champion of the small businessman and deserves a lot of credit, I think. She's been coming through for independent record stores lately by sending out free boxes of autographed CDs of her new album Folklore to boost sales at struggling stores. So Swift and her team sent crates and crates of these discs to these little mom and pop shops, which came as a real surprise to a lot of people. Angie Roloff, who's the owner of Strictly Discs in Madison, Wisconsin, told Billboard they weren't allowed to talk about it until the CDs were in their hands, and then they couldn't. Then they could post socially about it, put out the word, do whatever they wanted. The other requirement was it had to be local customers. It wasn't just a shipping distribution center. It was a way to get people to come check out these little record stores.
Well, let me ask this cynically. If you're like a local mom and pa disc store, like you're still selling the vinyl, you're doing the stuff, Taylor Swift drops her shit off at your door. Are you that, as your audience, that into it? Like I'm thinking of the Jack Black movie with
High Fidelity.
Yeah, how would the Taylor Swift, like what if it was, what if it was just like, I don't know, Celine Dion, or I'm trying to think of Forever Your Girl. Who was back then?
Paul Abdul.
Paul Abdul. Would they be pumped about Paul Abdul dropping off a crate of records or CDs?
I think given this new environment of nobody going to these stores, Taylor Swift would be your new number one go-to idled artist.
I think that's a windfall of cash, and also it brings in a new audience. Maybe didn't know you existed.
Yeah.
Now,
CDs? Are people still doing CDs?
They're autographed. She had to send something to autograph.
But are you still doing CDs?
That's a great question. It's more like a souvenir.
I like this, but are we cynical? Like Taylor Swift seems to be in sort of like PR mode all the time. Like she, she kind of
Sure.
she kind of didn't get involved politically. She kind of did her own thing, and she sung songs, and that was fine. And I feel like now she's getting a lot more involved. Is she getting involved because she wants to be involved, or is the New World Order you must be involved?
I think I don't know a lot about her. The only Taylor Swift song I could name is "Shake It Off." I don't know any of her music, but she's doing. You always hear things
She
like
has some good songs.
Taylor Swift baked cookies for her fans, and Taylor Swift just spent $30,000 because she found a girl's GoFundMe page who was trying to go to college. So I'm always hearing these stories. I don't know her music, but I know that she's constantly wanting to be everyone's favorite.
Are you hearing the stories because they're being pushed out there? Like, would you hear the stories if they weren't pushed out there?
I wouldn't, because I just don't listen to her music. But they are. I mean, you can't open a headline of whatever, Yahoo, Google News, whatever, and not see a feel-good Taylor Swift story.
So, sorry, back in the day, they do these like eulogies of like George Steinbrenner, the owner of the Yankees. Remember him? Remember that guy? Remember him?
Larry David played him on Seinfeld.
He was a great SNL host.
And he was?
Yes, it was like 1991 or 2, and he was legitimately funny.
They do those things so that stories would be like, it was kind of a Sinatra thing or George Steinbrenner thing. And they do a thing where they go like, when we found out that one of the equipment trainers' sons had leukemia, like George showed up, a check for $100,000 just showed up in our mailbox, and he didn't even have his name on it, but we knew who it was from, and he wouldn't say anything, and they wouldn't say anything, and there's a lot of like really quiet philanthropical stuff, like the. Did I say philanthropical? Is that a word?
Yeah, I liked it.
Philanthropic stuff. I turned it into a drink. The point is this. My point is like there were these rich guys who would like quietly do things, and like everyone thought they were horrible and douchey and everything, but they just sort of quietly took care of families and stuff like that. And it sort of went against who their public persona was.
Isn't that kind of a Howard Stern thing?
Howard Hughes?
Quietly...
Stern or Hughes? Well, there's definitely Hughes part of it. I don't know if the Stern part.
But like Howard Stern, I think knowing this kind of flies in the face, but that he makes very large charitable donations anonymously.
Oh, I didn't know that about him.
It's what I was told.
I would believe it, but there used to be a sort of quiet part of this, like, again, or Stern or George Steinbrenner. But now I feel like Taylor Swift is doing it as part of her persona and campaign, which is not, the library still gets the money. Like, I'm fine with it, but I'm just saying,
I thought you'd be fine with that.
I am fine with it. I'm just saying it's just the New World Order where there's no more quiet. Here's what these people did.
Well, to your point, Adam, about this, I when you talk about whether or not why is Taylor Swift doing this? Like, what's her motivation? I had a date yesterday. First date, went on a date, start talking about music. I said, I'm a U2 fan. She said, I hate Bono. I hate Bono. Now, by the way, this is the wrong person to say this to. I've seen U2 50 times, 50 in concert. So she's like, I hate Bono. I think he's full of himself. I wish he would just shut up and sing. And as she's saying this, I'm on this date, and she's attractive, and everything's great. And at that exact moment, I went, it's over. Like, I'm never seeing her again. But then I was like, all right, let me gather myself and say, so I said, so what's wrong with Bono? He thinks he's God with Africa and all this. And I said, but he has raised hundreds of millions of dollars.
He's exceptionally charitable.
Like, for this, the Red campaign has raised hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was like, and she goes, I know, but I think he's just doing it because it feeds his ego. I'm like, he's the lead singer of U2. He needs his ego. He could go on stage at the Rose Bowl, and his ego is fed. And she's like, and she goes, I don't know. I just think it's so showy, kind of what you were saying, Adam. I just think it's showy. And then I just went like this, and I took a deep breath, and I said, what are you doing exactly? Charitably, are you doing anything? And she's like, So the question is, why is Taylor Swift doing it? I don't know. I don't care. But the fact that she's doing it matters because a lot of people listen to her. She has a ton of fans that listen to her. And if she's saying, let's get active, let's do it, whatever her motivation is, it's working. Now, whether you believe in what she's selling is a different thing. But
yeah, no, I'm look, bottom line, like I started out, taxpayer, you're on the right side of the ledger or the wrong side of the ledger. That's how I have everyone broken down into. I'm just wondering if the old world order is Steinbrenner quietly giving money to a family and asking him not to say anything, and the new world order is having that be a part of your deck. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you need that to be a part of your platform. It's no longer what's your music or what's your movie. It's like, what about Black Lives Matter? What about charitable, this and that? What about showing up at the events or the marches? What about tweeting a support with blah, blah, blah? Like that is part of the new order of celebrity. Dan, I feel your pain because I had a date a number of years ago, and I'm a huge Pat Travers fan. And this bitch,
Boom, boom, out go the lights.
yes, had the temerity to look across the table at me and tell me she was not a fan. Pat Travers was overrated, and that mostly what he did was all sizzle and no steak. And that was the fuck. I went full Housewives of New Jersey. I flipped the table up and I walked right out of the Denny's.
Crying.
And I know
it's a deal breaker, man.
it was a deal breaker.
Yeah. I'm sitting there going, anything else you're going to say, including I'd like to have sex with you right now, is not going to mean anything because you're laying into Bono.
That's right.
Online,
Well,
right there.
You want to go with
get
Larry or the Edge, so be it. But you stay away from
Adam
Bono.
Clayton.
They're laying Adam
Get
Clayton.
all over Adam Clayton. I don't care. But Bono, we're done, baby. We're done.
I just have one thing I have to say about that in agreement.
Mm-hmm.
In agreement with you. On Facebook and on Twitter, there are so many of these, and they're supposed to be heartfelt, and we're all supposed to feel good about ourselves and feel sorry for the subject of the video and feel uplifted. But I always feel horrible for these people. It's not just celebrities. It's everyone. On a micro level, if you're going to give money to a homeless person, if you're going to surprise somebody with, a down payment for a used car or whatever, you can't just have that be a private moment for somebody who's struggling and may not want the other end of the deal to be that their face is plastered all over social media as somebody destitute and who can't help themselves. But that's the deal you're making, because everybody's like, oh, this is the most beautiful video. I gave this guy $5 when he was really struggling and he broke down crying and held onto my leg and couldn't stop thanking me. And now that guy's image of that moment is plastered all over social media when maybe he just felt grateful and would like to get on with his life.
Amen, sister. Taylor has donated $3,000 quietly to multiple fans who needed the money after COVID-19.
So there's a lot of people on Twitter who's been posting screenshots like Taylor Nation LLC has donated $3,000, and then there's a little message like from Taylor, hey, I heard you're struggling from COVID, and I heard what happened to your aunt and uncle. I just want to give you $3,000, and it's all over the internet. But I guess that's pretty quiet compared to
I don't know the ins and outs because I'm in the Beehive.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm kind of a
Yeah,
Beyonce dude, and it's kind of hard
Getcha.
to be both. You have to kind of pick a team. And
Is anybody still doing the martini segment? Because I am.
I am.
I've been making martinis the entire time I'm doing this.
Occasionally, it clanks out of Dan's screen.
I'm looking. I'm like, am I the only one stirring up martinis? Because it's been
But so now we get more cynical again, which is, of course, when you send stuff out and you go, hey, be quiet about it. If you get $3,000 from Taylor Swift, you're taking to the internet, right? Like,
there's just screenshots.
You were
of
able
the
to
message.
find all these screenshots of people going like, again, look, it's all better than whatever my mom gave to society or contributed to society.
Adam, do you remember a few years ago when Tyler Perry paid for everyone's Christmas presents at a
Does he
Walmart?
remember? He was
Yes.
fuming.
I don't
pissed.
like it.
Yeah, and then he goes, I wanted this, and then he puts a selfie video of himself. I wanted this to be anonymous, and then it was like a compilation of of him coming out and hugging the people after they found out he paid for their layaway.
Right. So what I'm saying is if you wanted it to be anonymous, like if you were a celebrity and you're banging a he-she, I bet there's a way to do it. I bet you put much more effort into being anonymous than you do about paying off
Yeah,
people's...
people can keep things quiet if they really want to.
That's...
Ace, can I ask you a question? I mean, you are a celebrity. You're a man of means. You make more than Weird Al Yankovic. You've established this.
I do.
When you do your charitable donations, do you make a hey, look at me, or do you just do it on the side?
He must be doing it quietly.
I don't even know what my...
His tax guys.
I have a couple. I have a guy I went to high school with who does like the cancer ride every year, and I sponsor him, and I have a few charities, but I don't even know what they are.
Isn't there a value in if people know that you're supporting a charity, that people, fans of yours, that go, oh, Adam just gave that charity $100,000. I love Adam. I want to donate too.
The problem is the charity, my wife has a brother who's severely schizophrenic. And the charity is Schizophrenia Foundation or whatever, but good luck trying to write in schizophrenia. Like I can't spell schizophrenia. So it's like when you do one of these celebrity game shows or something.
ALS and MS.
Yes, that's right. MLB, whatever, NHL. What the point is?
I just want to give the age.
SDP, like
BLM.
BLM.
Perfect.
Like I literally you're doing celebrity match game, and they're like, "What's your charity?" And I'm like, "Schiza." Fuck, I need a new piece of paper. Let's make it
scleroderma.
Make it the BLT Foundation, or I don't know what the
just MS.
Yeah, just MS, because schizophrenia. I would have no idea how to write that on a piece of paper. So, yeah, I don't. You do an event. I guess you do like, I won the Long Beach Grand Prix 2 times, so. You have to declare a charity when you do that because they're going to give whatever you won to charity. I don't know how you even figure that one out, but they do stuff. Everyone always laughs at me when I say this, but they go, "What do you do for charity, bro?" Like there's a lot of like that kind of stuff. People that are successful people and that make a decent amount of money. If let's just say you live in Los Angeles and you're successful, you give half your money away. You give 13% to the city or the state. Sorry, and you give 36%, 37% to the federal government. You give half your money away, and people are like, yeah, that's fine, but what about the charity? It's like, hey, that's a lot of fucking charity. Yeah. Like, hey, schools. And, post office and transportation and the military and all that, whatever it is, if you're a big time taxpayer, that's a lot of charity. Like that's nuts and bolts keeping this country running. Like you're paying for the school teachers, you're paying for the politicians, you're paying for the infrastructure. Like if you're paying a lot in taxes, you're paying a lot in charity, maybe the ultimate charity, maybe the charity that affects everyone. I don't know if I'm going to get scleroderma, but I am going to use the fucking roads and the bridges in the military. Sorry, thoughts, Brian?
To your point, I know this isn't exactly what you meant, but further bolstering your point, last year when I raised $150,000 for cancer charity, I should be thanks for the reminder, I should be a lot louder about that because I don't talk about it that much. But a large chunk of that money came from one Mark Garagos, who is obviously a wealthy man, and the wealthy people give the most to charity.
Yeah.
The actual charity. I'm not talking about paying taxes. I'm talking about like giving above and beyond that. Yes,
they do both. They pay, I don't know, it's something like maybe in California or maybe it's the United States. It's like 1% pay like 49% of the tax bill. And they do a lot of charity. So maybe we should give them a little break. Maybe the notion wouldn't be like, hey, rich fat cat, when are you going to pay your fair share? Garagos does pretty good at paying his fair share. All right. Who did I drive? I wonder what my charity was. And we'd go to the Children's Hospital and all that crap beforehand as well.
Schizophrenia, which is a weird charity to give to because they don't even appreciate it because then they appreciate it 1 minute and then the next minute they're,
Dan is correct.
Yeah, their board is staffed with people.
And they're like, hey,
how it works. All right. Let's see. Do we bring it home, Gina Grad?
We'll do it right now. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad. That was the news with Gina Grad.